How's everybody doing? You ready?
Yeah.
All right, so this panel we're going to talk about touring and what it's like and the crazy stories from the road. Everybody got a mic down there? You guys all good? This is like the eternal table, man. So like I'm at a castle having dinner. Everybody's got one. We're good. We're good. Yeah, we got this guy too. We can whip at people's heads. We're good. So, all right, all you guys have been touring for a long time. And, you know, so feel free. Who wants to start?
Should we take some questions?
Yeah, here.
What do we say? Yeah.
Who wants to ask a question?
That's the coolest thing ever.
I don't Blair, there's not one person here that has a question. It's like 8 of the biggest rock stars today.
What are we talking about? Road stories?
Get sleep any chance you can. That's of course. That's what we have. Any chance you can.
What?
Sleep.
You want this?
I think just throw it so we keep people, so people kind of scared.
Fine, I'll ask you a question. So, David, you guys and Korn toured together a lot, what a Korn's first tour, I think, was with Megadeth, was it
I
not?
just remember on that one, my wife would go out. She was a huge fan and wanted to go see Korn every night. And she was like 8 months pregnant with our son Roman. And Roman she'd go out, and my wife would be rocking out with a big little belly. My son would be kicking. Please make it stop. Please tell Korn to stop.
They're disturbing me in the womb.
He came out. He's a good kid, despite it.
I got a funny story. So, it's like our first album. Our first, like, big tour since, it was like Dancing Marilyn Manson was one level and Megadeth was another level. And we were so stoked and just Megadeth fans and everything. And we get there and we're told by the tour manager, Mustaine doesn't want any alcohol around on the tour. We're like, what? We drink beer every day, that's our food. And they're like, well, if you're gonna drink beer, no beer cans, and we're like, okay, we'll put it in water bottles. But let's see the beer in the water bottles. So we had to get duct tape. True story. We had to get duct tape and duct tape the Evian bottles all the way to the top so you couldn't see the beer. And then about 3 weeks into it, Mustaine ends up on our bus one night. And he's sober for a while, and we were endorsed by Jägermeister.
Yeah.
And out of the corner of his right eye, he sees a bottle. And so, yeah, he broke down on that tour about 3 weeks into it. And
Your fault.
no, all right. But so that's not the funny part, but yeah, the tape on the Evian bottle is a classic, but I love it. But
You're like the first Jaeger band. I don't think they did Jaeger tours until then. I mean, you're probably like
Really?
the very first Jaeger sponsored tour. I remember going out to see Metallica on Justice for All, and Lars had snuck some over in the wardrobe case because they came over from Europe. He said, "Here, try some of this." And it's the most god-awful stuff you've ever had. I don't think I ever drank it again after that.
And yeah, it was really a blessing, man, to have the Jägermeister girls show up with bottles every day, because my singer drank it every day, and then he's the nicest guy, but then he would look for one of the band members, one of us, to punch us in the face later at night. And when he walked on the bus, it was like, oh, John's coming, get in your bunk, put your covers over. And then some nights, there's a couple nights, we found him in the bathroom of our tour bus. He's puking, right? And there's urine and puke in the toilet. And we're like, John, you okay, man? You okay? And he scoops it up with his left hand and looks at us and drinks urine and puke and just grins. And we're like, right on, Jaeger girls, thanks. Appreciate you. True story.
That's why he's in your movie.
Who's going to top that?
I know who you're talking about. Where's Jason?
Yeah, right, Jeff? I know. Oh, that was the worst. Jason Beeler told
Jason, you want to tell a story?
the worst story in the world yesterday.
It'll take too much time, and I don't want to take all the sunlight, gentlemen.
It tops the mold.
So why don't you guys, Jeff, why don't you tell us about some of your earliest touring experience? Troy and Kyle, like you moved over to Peter?
Speaking of urine, it made me think of how we used to save time driving city to city in a van with 4 dudes and all of our gear. We got really good at peeing in water bottles because that saves a lot of time. And if you could go 65 miles an hour and make it into this, no matter who you are, it takes a skill. It's a craft. But then we had one better because there'd be some splashback. You just can't help it. And that's their living quarters. And there's 4 men in a half of a van, the other gears in the other half. So don't ever hit the brakes because you'll get killed with your 18 cabinet. But anyway, so to save even more time, we just drilled a hole in the bottom of our van, put a funnel, a beer funnel, down there, so you can just take turns peeling in the van. No splashback, and you save time. Let's see. That's what happened.
And they sold the funnel at the merch table on the last show.
The VIP upgrade. VIP upgrade. Kyle?
We did that.
You did the funnel?
We did that. It wasn't the first band tour, we did that. We used to, this is awful, just shit on a frisbee and throw it across the lake.
It's dark.
That's easy animals, and then there was a hole with a gallon jug, cut the lid off, with it turned upside down, cut the top off, so you have a nice target. Not a water bottle like that, That big. Oh man, my mom's not gonna be happy about these stories. Oh man.
What happened to groupies and drugs?
Yeah, right?
Exactly what happened.
Peter Klett?
I have a story, I have lots of stories.
Good.
This story's not going to be about shit or urine. Although at the time, I almost shit my pants. So, we were on one of our first tours, heading down I-5 with a single axle trailer behind a van. Single axle trailers do not stop well. If you put on the brakes going 75, they start wobbling like crazy. So our driver's doing 75, going down I-5, goes past the semi-truck, that trailer starts wobbling. Before you know it, the whole van is backwards, sliding backwards, through the medium, facing the opposite direction on I-5 with fucking semis coming right at us. So, yeah, before we even got started, we almost died. So there's that story. It's a positive one, and it doesn't involve urine or shit.
Bumblefoot, anything that doesn't involve shit or urine?
Your booking agent can make or break your tour. Little subject change for a second. Make sure that when you're touring, that before it all happens, you have a very communicative booking agent that includes you. It doesn't go rogue and just book random shit like a spirograph all over the planet. It needs to be a start and just go like this. Very important. It can make a band implode being on the road under that much extra strain that just fucks everybody up. Make sure and don't agree to things that you know are going to be too much. You're better off pulling the plug early on a tour than seeing it through and having it kill your band and everyone hates each other and everything was just a miserable thing, you're traumatized and you don't want to ever tour again and all that stuff. If this is going to be in your life, you have to make sure that it's a good part of your life. And that's going to take some work and some trial and error, but it's important to find a booking agent that will communicate with you and include you in everything and not lie to you and not make you say at the end of the tour, I never would have agreed to this. If I can make the amount of tours that I've heard people say, I never would have agreed to this. So, that. And don't shit the tour.
So Ron, what was it like going from touring stadiums of Guns N' Roses to being in a van with me and Dave Ellefson for 2 weeks?
What?
Remember we were in a van together for 2 weeks?
Last week.
I remember last week. What about? What was your question?
I said, what was it like going from touring with Guns N' Roses to being in a van with us?
It's fine. I mean, you're with people, and the thing is, as long as you're with people you like, it doesn't matter. You can be squished in, 10 clowns in a Volkswagen, as long as you like each other.
Next to her.
You compare that to being on a bus with people that just don't want to be around. That's hell. The other thing is actually a good time and a lot of fun. It's like, oh, remember that time when there was 10 of us with clown noses in the Volkswagen, we couldn't even move. That was great. It really matters who you're with and making sure that everybody's not just getting along, but a fit and keeping each other from freaking out. What was it like? The tour bus is you're traveling home. Again, like the first thing I said before, sleep. Sleep is most important. It'll keep you from cracking. So, you need to say, okay, if I'm playing here, the next day I'm playing here, the next day I'm playing here, someone needs to get you there. You can't be awake in between. You need to sleep. So, you have a tour bus. You sleep and then you wake up in the next place. Like magic. It's a lot harder to do that in a van. Definitely, even though you're trying to save money, and I was like, we're gonna do 10 shows in 7 days, we're amazing. You're gonna hate life. Put in the time, schedule time off, a breather for your sanity, to recoup, to recharge your batteries, to reboot your stuff. You need that. And some things are more important than the dollar. Your health and your sanity, for sure. So include that in the equation. That's very important.
Thank you. So Todd, you were primarily a drummer before you joined Queensryche, right? What was it like going from playing drums to touring as a demand, like literally you jumped into the most demanding vocal gig in rock and roll in your first year?
I wasn't even trying to get the gig.
How did it happen?
Oh God, long story short, so yeah, I've been a drummer my whole life. I don't even really consider myself really much of a singer in my own mind. I'm a drummer that likes to sing. I actually drummed on the new Queensryche album because our original drummer, Scott Rockenfield, had a baby. He's been on kind of a hiatus and doing that whole thing. So, I mean, I've kind of had like this double surreal dream come true where I've been a drummer my whole life. I get to actually track on the record and then sing in, one of my all-time favorite bands. So I met Michael Wilton, guitar player, at a Seymour Duncan artist party in NAMM one year. We just struck up a conversation about doing some side things, but I was talking as a drummer, and I used to sing in a band called Crimson Glory for a few years. So one thing led to another. He sent me some music, and I was like, wow, this is really, he was like, can you sing like Chris Cornell? I was like, I mean, I'm a pretty good chameleon at things, but I said, man, this music just screams Queensryche. It really, and so I just said, well, I'm just gonna write what I wanna write over it, and I did, and I sent him back something saying, hey, I know you were kind of digging the Chris Cornell vibe, but that's not really my style, naturally. I'm more of the Bruce Dickinson, Jeff Tate. That was always more of my natural way of singing. So I sent him back that, and he was like, wow, he was impressed, whatever. And so one thing led to another. We did a side project called Rising West, and there happened to be a falling out with the original vocalist, and it just kind of was a lateral transition. And so I've been in the band going on 7 years. This will be my 3rd album with the band. So everyone here, up here, is a fan, right? We're all fans. Everyone geeks out with Max Norman. We get to ask about the records we grew up listening to, or whatever. So I'm a fan too. Everyone here has been in the business and I would consider a very seasoned veteran of this crazy business, much longer than I have. That being said, I feel like I certainly paid my dues. I've been playing in bars since I was 14 as a drummer. So I set up drum kits and played to nobody and played to some people, and I get it. There's a lot of people out here that are in bands or are songwriters, or maybe you're, like I heard earlier, trying to network and just kind of get a little more insight into the business. And not to discourage anyone, because I think you should totally do what feels right to you and live your passion. It is a very hard business. Had I been in Queensryche in my favorite days of the 80s and 90s, I would probably be sitting very pretty. But we work very hard, like Brian was saying about the documentary. You know, if it recoups, great, but it was a labor of love to be able to express a side of him and his personal and insight into his personal life that you would never be privy to otherwise. And so I commend you for wearing your heart on your sleeve and exposing a vulnerability that otherwise you would never have such insight to. And there's a lot of, and I get shamed, you know, on certain sites for saying that there's a certain amount of entitlement these days because of social media. I think it's a blessing and a curse. I love that mystery of that my favorite artists weren't so accessible. You know, I like that buffer.
Yeah.
And so as much as, I mean, I just still consider myself a regular guy from St. Pete. I live here in St. Petersburg. And I'm a fan too, I'm just on the other side of the barricade. But when it comes to like writing the music in Queensryche and doing what we do, sometimes I feel like I am able to offer a slightly different perspective with the music we're creating, because I say, look, I was a huge fan of Queensryche my whole life. And so I think that your fan base, like to these guys, they were always the guys. Dale, he was, you know, always a Megadeth. So maybe he doesn't see himself as that guy on the pedestal that everyone likes to put him on because he's a legendary guy. But you know, we are all the same. No one here is better than anyone else. We're just honestly fortunate that it is who you know. Somebody mentioned it was a people business. I don't remember who said that, but I think it was Dave. It is a people business, and it's a very small business. The people that I grew up loving and watching on MTV and Headbangers Ball, I'm friends with almost all of them, like everybody here is too. You play the festival circuits, you meet each other at catering, you exchange numbers, next thing you know, you're like, wow, I know that guy, I know that guy. And there is a surreal part to that. But I think at the end of the day, you should really just try to be humble and be the best person that you can be, because what goes up must come down. Queensryche used to sell out arenas. We don't play arenas unless we're a support band for a band that's drawing bigger, and that's okay. You know, so I think that everyone, there's a certain glamour that some people ask me, man, that's so amazing, you get to do this, and it is great, it's awesome. But there are those times where you're like, you know, I'm sure everyone here has identified with, we play for free, we get paid to travel. Because it's very tiring, it's very exhausting, but it's very rewarding because out of all of these people that want to, quote, make it, I don't even know what that means anymore. You know, I feel very fortunate, I'm sure everyone here feels very fortunate, and if anybody's trying to make it, again, if you're a session player, and you are earning an income doing that, I think that that's successful and you've made it in your own right, in that way. Not everybody is cut out to be a performer. So don't feel like you have to have fame and notoriety in that respect to feel like you've arrived as a musician, because there are so many other areas to this business behind the scenes, and the people that make the shows really happen. We're just like the people up there on stage and we get all the credit. But there's so many other valuable positions that, you know, if you don't feel like you need to be a performer in that way, you can network, you can do songwriting, there's lots of good things in publishing, and this is a great environment to kind of ask those questions. How do I meet these other people? What would you suggest? You know, we can all tell crazy stories and everything. I think at the end of the day, you guys want to get something out of this and feel like you walked away with a little bit more knowledge that could be a stepping stone to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. I do have one funny story. I have a quick one, I'll make it quick. So we run tour, so I have friends that will come out to shows and whatnot, and they've never been backstage or or seen what it's like, and you come back, and they're like expecting, you know, hookers and rails of cocaine and all this crazy shit. And it's like, you know, there's like a deli tray and some carrots. Everyone's on their iPhone and it's like crickets, it's quiet. And they're like, so like, where's everything going on? I'm like, no, dude, this is it. This is what we love. It's quiet. Nobody wants to talk. We don't want to talk to anybody, right? Everybody knows that. Like,
It's called getting old.
dude, right? And I've heard crazy stories of, you know, the crazy stuff. Nevertheless, we were on tour with the Scorpions a couple years ago. We did a North American tour, and then we were going up through Canada. Now, everyone in Queensryche is, I'm 44 years old, Parker's like 30, 31. But the other guys are in their mid-50s. So they've kind of been there and done that. So we're going through the border of Canada, and everyone here knows Canada is very strict. If you have a DUI, you're fucked. I mean, it's not easy to get into Canada if you have any kind of a record. So we get to Canada, and they wake us up, and they're like, out of our bunks, everyone get your passports. And okay. So they bring the dogs, and it's like, you know, this very interrogating thing, which you wouldn't expect for just go across to Canada. So the guys get on, the security people get on, and they're like, you know, we're all like, yes, sir, and blah, blah, blah. He says, whose bunk is that? Upper left in the back. And Michael Will's like, that's mine. We're like, anything you want to tell us? And we're kind of looking like, dude, what do you have in your bunk? Like, you know? He's like, no. He's like, well, what's that? You got a bag of white powder? Big Ziploc bag of white powder? He's like, okay. He's like, what are we going to find in it? He's like, it's colon cleanser. They're like, colon cleanser. He's like, so if we test this, what are we going to find? He's like, cauliflower, broccoli. It's fucking colon cleanser. I'm like, dude, this guy, you know, this is about sustaining and maintaining. That shit's over with. So there's a little more of a lighthearted story, but a funny little story.
You tell us about your adventures with Van Halen and Motley Crue. Tell us some rock and roll story.
When we were on tour with actually Ellefson, we were just getting done with the show in Providence, Rhode Island, and this girl wanted to ride on the tour bus. So she was a really good-looking girl and everything, and we all said, yeah, come on in, you know, and party with us for a while. We're going to be taking off a little bit. And so anyway, we started to take off down the road, and she said, no, I'm going to stay with you guys for a while, and I'll just get off down the road, no problem. But as she was sitting in there, we smelled this stench, and it was just horrific, and we all looked at each other, we realized it was her. And so the bus driver goes, what the fuck is that smell? You know? And so we had to pull over on the side of the freeway, and he pointed at her and he said, he pointed at her and said, get the hell off our bus. And she was so messed up, she didn't understand what he was even saying. So anyway, we're pulled over on the side of the freeway. It's snowing out like crazy. And she gets off the tour bus and she goes, fuck you, Aerosmith. She thought she was like Aerosmith. Has anyone in the audience been on a tour bus? Raise your hand. That's pretty good. So everyone knows what rule number 1 is, right? Which is the same as rule number 2, which is what? Don't shit on the bus. And then you should know what hot bagging is. For those of you that don't, you can figure it out. And then the Motley Crue tour, that was 6 months. I don't remember very much at all, but what we did do while we were touring with it, we did do these little offshoot gigs, and we played county fair in Arkansas in a place called Dog Patch. There is a Dog Patch, Arkansas, like the comics, okay? And we pulled the tour bus up. We didn't know really what to expect, and so we pulled to a flatbed truck, And that's actually what we're playing on, was a flatbed truck for this county fair out in the middle of Arkansas. And so we're all prettied up and everything. It's the 80s, it's a glam metal thing and everything. And we get on this stage and we look out and there's just a sea of deformity. Not one eye was the same height as the other. One ear was stuck out the same as the other. And so they're looking at us like, what the hell is this? You know? Oh my God, you gotta be kidding. There's not a normal looking person out there. And so we played for just like a half hour, got the hell out of there. So then our bus driver, Mojo, he pulls into this gravel parking lot with a little cabin in the back of it that was actually a place, it was a restaurant, didn't say anything on it or anything, but he said, I'll be right back, I just got to get cigarettes and coffee. And so he went in and then Randy and I, you know, the bass player and I, we thought, well, we need cigarettes. So we went in there and it had a dirt floor, a little sawdust down and everything, and it just stunk in there like crazy. And so anyway, what happened was, Mojo saw us come in and he goes, go, run now, because these guys that were in there, they had never seen the likes of us before. We were still in our stage clothes, you know, we just got done playing this gig.
Yeah, did you ever see autographed stage clothes in the 80s? Yeah. They were pretty progressive. Lots of spandex.
And so Mojo said, run. And he, sure enough, everybody, all the guys in there started following us out and throwing beer bottles at us and everything. He said, damn, boy, come back here, you're Peter, my wife. So we thought it was deliverance all over again.
All right, I know we got time for one or two questions. Anybody have a question? Björn, you got any questions? I guess not. We got that guy. Where's the big box? Where's my big box? Who's got me? Throw in my big box. Oh!
Yeah.
Check. All right, guys. Yeah, we got to see you guys one time earlier than, and just a pleasure having you guys here all weekend. Me and Brian actually have a little history together from his record label back a few years ago. But our question is for me and my buddy Brad, because we're getting ready. We dropped our CD. You know, debut CD just got released, so we're trying to get ready to hit the road and do things like you're talking about. So what would you guys suggest for us? You mentioned the booking agency to work with and stuff like that, to really start to get things going and get on the road and kind of get things moving.
Please.
Your most important guy is going to be your tour manager. He's the one that's going to take a lot of the headaches for you, and he's going to know a lot of little tricks of the trade that you don't know. So many tiny little things. He's going to have deals with hotels and this and that. And, he is going to keep everything running properly. So make sure you have an experienced tour manager. And these days it's pretty often bad that people do double duty, and a tour manager might also be a front of house engineer or something like that. So find a great tour manager. That's first. I should also add that touring, traveling in general, is the best education you can get in life. You learn so much about humanity and by that, about yourself. I recommend it at least once. Get out there and see the world and meet people and experience things and realize how much we don't know until we get out there.
And be ready to eat a lot of shit.
And get a tour manager that can also do sound, just so you can save some money.
Yeah. The other thing too, I'd be like, I guess I can lay on this as I deal with this shit on a daily basis, but you know, don't tour beyond your means, don't tour beyond what you can commit to. I deal with this all the time with bands. There's no right or wrong way to tour anymore. Bands like Autograph, a lot of those guys, they just fly in. They do big shows, they fly in. You can do weekend warrior stuff. A lot of bands are getting older now. They have families, they have kids. You know, tour to what's comfortable for you. You don't need to be in a band for 6 months in a row, lose your house and your family. Tour in a way that makes sense for you. Go out, do weekends, do little regional runs. There's so many different ways to tour and really just make sure it works for you. I mean, that's the most important thing, I think, now, you know?
And don't eat seafood in the Midwest.
I will second that. As a guy who lives in the Midwest.
It's also what you know, I think some people are impressed with the imagery, you know, like, oh, I want a tour bus, and I want this and that. They have cheaper things, like they're called the bandwagon. They're not the greatest comfort, but there are ways to tour smart and effectively, like Brian was saying, you know, get somebody, in Queensryche, we had a larger crew, we scaled back. We have a tour manager that also does front of house. So your payroll goes way down. You try to find, at the end of the day, it's what you go home with. Some people, you know, will invest all of their money into pyro and all of this kind of stuff. We don't have pyro, but I make a hell of a lot more money than they do at the end of the day, most of the time. You don't realize how much money the expenses are on the road. Tour bus, you know, there's, I don't know, $1,200 a day maybe, $1,000 to $1,200 every day. So people say, well, God, you're playing so many shows, because every day you're not playing, that costs you money. So you have to, there's so many variables that go into, why don't you play here? Well, why don't you play there? Or how much are you gonna charge for this? And what's the ticket price? And what other band is playing in that area? What warrants your value here? Oh, well, we have to take less money, but that pays for the bus and some expenses for the week. Okay, but that promoter knows that guy, and if you just sold the band for so much less money, you're afraid of selling yourself short, and they all talk, and dude, there's so much, like somebody said earlier again, the song, I don't know if it was Jason saying, the song is almost like the smallest part of this aspect, because it is a business at the end of the day. Tour smart, get a booking agent that can get you on a tour that makes sense. You know, don't throw away, you know, you don't want to couch surf. You have priorities, you're not a child, you know, you're not 18 years old.
Booking agent is a
booking agent, you know, they're going to take a percentage, or maybe there's a lot of bands that will do a buy-on, that will pay money, and it sucks the whole pay-to-play thing, but to get that exposure and to be shared with a larger band's audience, that, you know, if you're not selling big tickets, but you want to try to generate and have a bigger audience demographic exposure, you know, if you're doing some touring, try to see another band that might work for you with the genre of music, and maybe you have to do a buy-on, it costs you some money, but you're out there, sell your merch. Your CD, in my opinion, is a business card to get people to come see you live, because that's what this business has turned into.
Yeah, we pay,
unless you're Mastodon and Grammys and stuff like that.
We pay to do shows with Queensryche, actually. No, I'm the business manager and the tour manager for Autograph, because we just decided not to spend that money, and I wanted that money. So I make more money than them by doing this. So, but it's actually really good. If you can learn the business and you can get the right connections and everything, it's a really good idea to try to do it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten some really good companies behind us too. I'm endorsed with D-Drum and Feisty and Evans being the drummer, and our guitarists are with Dean Guitars as well. So I mean, we got, you know, really good companies behind us, which you guys all play. You know, most of you guys are with it already. So, you know, we're trying to use any kind of connection and networking we can get, obviously, to start. You guys have done it when you were young, and you made the grind and played in the, you know, some more bars, and obviously worked your way up. So, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. So we're kind of, you know, starting where you guys started.
Perfect. Well, this is the perfect place to network, man. That's what we're here for. Like Brian wanted to say something. Wrap up.
I'm just still blown away that Todd was a drummer for so long. Were you guys like, what? It's crazy. In South America a few years ago, I played a solo show, and there's like 40 people there, so I was bummed the whole show, and then afterwards, and Queensryche was playing around the corner, so I went, Portnoy was playing with them, and so, you know, I knew him, and we went over there, and that was when they had the falling out. That night, I was at that show, and so I've been, you know, wouldn't think of it with Korn or whatever, but I was just watching like 6 Queensryche videos the other night, and I watched your shows with you live, and killing it, man.
Thank you.
Great, good job, man.
And also, I think in the rock metal genre, like you know, I didn't, you know, make it until my late 30s, you know, so to where I had any kind of exposure on a larger level. So I don't feel like, oh, I'm 40 years old and like it's too late, because it's not. This is a it's a large umbrella, but within the rock and hard rock heavy metal genre, I mean, there are people that are well into their 40s, 50s, 60s that are still out there doing it. And so don't feel like you have this expiration date that, oh, I've missed that window, because that's all bullshit. Those days don't exist anymore. Not in this genre, in my opinion. In the pop world, maybe. Vanity maybe is a little more important. It's a little more disposable. But I think the fan base of this style of music is just forever. I really believe that. I don't think you were a Megadeth or an Iron Maiden fan. I remember when Korn came out. I mean, I'm pretty jaded, and I'm hard to impress. And, you know, when Korn came out and I heard this sound, I was kind of scratching my head. And then I was like, where the fuck's the guitar solo? There was no guitar solo. And then you know what? I found beauty in the fact that they didn't have to fill every space of music with all this wanking and jerking off and shredding, and it has its place. But what they did was they created a new style and sound that took the world by storm. And my hat's off to you, and I commend you for that. And I have a huge Korn fan since the very beginning record.
There's the thing where, like, man, this really playing professionally is really hard, man. What can we do? We're not good. I know, just make weird sounds.
And it worked.
Yeah, and so I still look up to people like this guy's just a multi-talented guitar player, and I'm in awe of it. So, like we said in the beginning, we're all just fans. Yeah. We're all just fans of music, and so that's cool that we can appreciate every style and everything. So, right on.
Give it all these guys. All the back. Lynch, Todd, and now we're going to get some producers up here. How about that?